I received a comment not too long ago about road surfaces and road conditions. Now, obviously, we can't really cover all of that stuff in just one video. It would be about 14 hours long, but I will try my best. All right, so I am sorry about the wind noise. It's gonna be horrible, but let's just get through it, shall we? So, talking about asphalt, obviously we don't have snow or ice out here on this kind of asphalt because first off, it's in the sun for the most part, especially the section of road I just drove, but also because it's usually more traveled, which means it gets plowed a lot more frequently. So when talking about asphalt on snow and ice, you do run into a couple of things. First and foremost, being on asphalt with snow and ice is you're going to run into packed snow and ice a lot more frequently. First off, because it has more traffic, so it's more traffic packing down snow, but also you're going to run into what I like to call the epitome of salt. I hate salt. Salt ruins vehicles. It rusts everything out. It destroys your bushings and ball joints and all that stuff, but it also causes ice to melt, which can be a good thing if it's going to be hot and sunny for the next couple of days. But usually what ends up happening is they salt the road and then that night it refreezes. All that water that would have been washed away is now refreezing into ice, making it icier. At least out here, that's been my experience. That's why I don't really care for when they salt a road. It kind of bothers me more than anything because now it's deteriorating my car. I have to do more upkeep on the car to make sure it doesn't fall into a bucket of bolts, which it already kind of is, so therefore more upkeep. And on top of that, it makes it a little bit harder to drive on. Now, if ice and snow is what you want with limited grip in a parking lot on asphalt, then that's pretty all right actually, because I usually don't plow parking lots that frequently, and when they do, they usually don't salt the parking lots heavily. So sliding around on a flat parking lot that is asphalt with snow or ice on top is actually pretty fun and gives you the amount of grip you're looking for. But on dry asphalt, the game is completely different. The car is going to be a lot more difficult to slide, and once it slides, it's going to be a lot snappier. It's going to want to come back really quick, and that can catch some people out, which is why I always suggest driving on loose surfaces and working your way up to dry asphalt if that's what you're trying to do, is drift or slide around on dry asphalt. Because usually what happens, what I've seen a lot of times, is people are a little too wary of getting their car to slide because they're used to getting the car to slide in snow and ice where there's almost no grip, so the car slides really easy. So when they're coming in on asphalt, they have to go so much faster that it kind of freaks them out, and they're not willing to actually toss the car in and get it to do what it needs to do. So that's just one of the things, but another part of that is once the car does slide, they get spooked and countersteer way too much, and that causes snap oversteer, and that causes your car to swing the other way twice as fast. So just something for you guys, if you guys aren't experienced on driving on asphalt, try just sliding around in a wet parking lot, just because the water gives it a nice little base for a little bit less grip than usual, and it'll kind of feel like asphalt. It'll give you that nice middle ground between snow and ice, then gravel, then dry asphalt. So wet parking lot is perfect. But if you're just trying to go fast, dry asphalt, it offers some of the most grip you'll ever find, which is why most tracks are asphalt. Now, obviously, the tires I'm running on the car today are meant for gravel and off-road style of driving. Not so much for asphalt, but as you guys can see, even though I'm not going to say how fast I was going because, you know, this is all in Minecraft, but as you guys can see, the vehicle can travel a lot faster on asphalt with me not having to do nearly as much with the pedals. I can accelerate way harder, I can brake way harder, I can turn in and expect a lot more grip. Now, that is to be said, if there's dust or debris on the road, that can limit your grip severely, and that happens to usually be in some corners. One of the cons of asphalt is, although it does give you a bunch of grip, it gives you the tire smoke if you're trying to slide, and you know, it just feels good. For you low-powered guys, if you are trying to slide, it is going to not only deteriorate your tires very, very rapidly if you guys are on a budget and buying tires secondhand from a shop, it will delaminate after, you know, a certain amount of runs. Every tire is different tire compounds, whatever. I never really ran into that issue, but I also don't slide on asphalt that much because it's a front-wheel drive car. I don't need to, and I that's not what I do. But be aware of that. One of my my good friends Liam. He has a rear-wheel drive Subaru Legacy, and one of our first times out sliding on asphalt, he delaminated both of his rear tires. So just keep that in mind. That goes for low power and high powered cars. Tires, you just kind of burn through them on asphalt. Usually what will happen on low powered cars is they're not expecting you to be using the car in that fashion. So on low powered cars, such as your older 8.6 Corollas or your E30 BMWs, even though that is a beautiful platform, really the drivetrain really isn't set up for it. Obviously you can do it and you can get away with it for quite some time, but just notice that you will have to upkeep the vehicle more than if you were just driving it to and from work. Obviously you're beating on the drivetrain, the suspension components, and the motor pretty hard. So under low powered cars, you're gonna have to use a lot more weight transfer. That'll kind of keep your mechanical aspects down to a minimum. That way you're not banging the car into gear and clutch kicking the thing and doing all sorts of things that the car doesn't like. Try, if you are going to do it on asphalt, try using momentum to get the vehicle to do what you want it to do. Now, obviously, as you guys saw, I wasn't doing that much with the pedals or the steering in order to get the vehicle to go that fast in Minecraft. But obviously, the faster you go, the closer you get to that line of traction versus slipping, the more you are going to have to do with the vehicle to get it to maintain traction. The faster you go on asphalt, the more you are going to be doing regardless. That goes with most surfaces. Now, moving away from dry asphalt into wet asphalt, I know we talked about this a little bit. It's a good transition period between gravel to just straight up dry asphalt. Wet surfaces on asphalt is fantastic for sliding. It doesn't eat your tires as bad because first off, it keeps your tires a little bit cooler, but it also gives you a little bit more of a slippery surface, so the tires aren't trying as hard to break loose. It's a lot easier to get it to break. But also, if you are trying to maintain grip while driving fast on wet surfaces, obviously your average car is going to start to experience some sort of hydroplaning effect after 35 miles an hour if you have enough water on the ground, but that's not always the case. Even just a slight misting can cause the road surfaces to get a lot more slick, especially in the first couple of hours. Obviously, if you guys went to driver's ed, you should know this. The water gets underneath the oil in the roadways and lifts it up. So now it creates an oil slick on top of the roadways. So just be aware of that. That was actually one of the causes from one of my worst accidents, was coming through a corner in a little two-door BMW Z3. Coming through, hydroplaning, the car went sideways. I overcorrected and spun the opposite direction into oncoming traffic. Please, 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 be careful of driving in wet weather. I don't know how you guys in California do that, going 110 on the freeway in 3 inches of water. It makes no sense. Now, here's the caveat to that. Obviously, your tires and the weight of the vehicle and the length of the vehicle, all these different variables are going to come into account for that. So certain vehicles might not hydroplane nearly as bad. Some vehicles are gonna hydroplane like crazy. This car, the rear end is so light, it literally is hydroplaning the whole time. If I'm driving it just to and from work in the rain, the rear end is floating. So obviously, thank God it's a front wheel drive car. I can kind of keep my foot down and accelerate out of a slide if I need to, but be aware of that. Anyways, obviously, if there's anything I missed, please comment it down below. Help other people out, help me out. I would like to go more in depth on these videos on road surfaces and road conditions. So the more details you guys can list, the more in depth I can go into each kind of road surface in the future. I appreciate it. Have fun, don't do anything I wouldn't do, and definitely don't do anything I would do.